Hope your day is going well. Hope you're enjoying whatever day it may be. If it's the weekend, hope you're having a relaxing time in the weekend. Or if it's more a Monday or a Tuesday, hope you're having a good and plentiful start to your work week. Or if it's more of a Thursday or maybe a Wednesday as well. Hope you're getting through the work week alright. Hope you can relax a bit. Because the end of the work week is coming up. Right, let me throw that. Hold on, let me throw that on and then Discord didn't. There we go. I'm not sure what's up with my lighting today. I'm very bright, aren't I? I could try turning off the lighting in my room and just have the room light and not the ring light I've got. No, let me maybe try that. Doesn't really change much, unfortunately. I think the exposure of my webcam is just going too high automatically because of reasons, and I don't know those reasons and I don't want to mess with that. If it's completely broken, then no need to fix it. At least so I hope. Also, let me turn my gear up a little bit. I think I'm a bit low. And hello, Shredder, how do you do? Hope you're well. I'm just not sure how much a little bit is in terms of gain right now, but yeah, no, you just wing that. I'm doing good. It's getting nice and summery out there, so prepare to be disturbed by a lot of motorcycles, probably. So I think their gain-wise is somewhat in my normal level. I hope. But yeah, I'm doing good. Glad to hear you're doing well as well. Getting through the work week. Got a bit of a sore neck or whatever you might want to call it. It's a bit stiff, or I don't know. I slept wrong a day or two ago, and ever since then my neck's just been a bit heavy, but oh well. Hope that'll just go away with time. Hopefully. And as more motorcycles, lovely stuff. Just hope they won't be packed up too much. Let me real quickly look into a thing or two and then just get into the book, I guess. Can't wait too long. But I don't think this book is too I don't think that's like too, what do you call it, like sequential? I don't think you need to really follow too much of it to get the later stuff. It's a children's book, you don't expect them to keep on paying attention, right? At least, I don't expect myself to, normally, but Hello, Pixel Vegas, how are you? Hope you're doing well, getting nice and through the work week. I'll get started on reading in a bit. Just thought I was done with work for today, but another message flew in, so just doing it on the fly real quick. Let me see. Just need to grab this with it. Hello, Miss Cariando. Hope you're well. Good day to you. Alright, let me just link that with it. Then my colleague should be fine and be able to figure that out. They should be done with their work day as well, I presume. Let me just get everything set up real quick. Hope the sound is alright. I did a quick restart earlier since I was getting some not really constant static, but the input from the mic was being a bit staticky, a bit robotic, or whatever you might wanna call it. So I hope that problem doesn't return over time, now that my PC is back booted up again. But we'll hopefully not see, to be honest, but maybe we will see. I hope not. Nice, Miss Nice. Still very pretty day. Hope it's been fun. Sounds good for now. That's good. I can always put my headset back on every now and then as well to listen back through it. Just not sure where that problem originated from or why really, but restarting worked, although the problem with every restarting worked and it can also come back, I'd assume. We'll see. Also, yeah, if you're looking for emotes, there's not many right now, but that's because I'm changing out some emotes. But I don't have the emote fast tracking yet. I feel like I should be able to get it soon, but I don't know. I don't know when you really get that, but yeah, there'll be new emotes once Twitch stops being lazy and approves them. Fun. Oh, nice, miss. That's nice to hear. Maybe I'll, I mean, I say that, like, I wanna check out Pratchett, but I wanna check out so many things, I probably won't have the time to check out Pratchett, unfortunately. But alright, let me just get into reading chapter 1. It's very short, so I think I'll actually just get back to talking after chapter 1 again. Well, I've only got 5 emote slots total anyways, where normal subs go, so. Very true, Misk. Very true indeed. But yeah, let me just kick off with chapter 1, and whoever's not here, well, they'll miss it, but whatever. Don't think it'll matter that much for the story. Chapter 1. What no children. Once upon a time, so long ago, that I have quite forgotten the date, there lived a king and queen who had no children, and the king said to himself, "Oh, the queens of my acquaintance have children, some 3, some 7, and some as many as 12. And my queen is not one, I feel ill-used." So he made up his mind to be cross with his wife about it, but she bore it all like a good patient queen as she was. Then the king grew very cross indeed, but the queen pretended to take it all as a joke, and a very good one too. "Why don't you have any dollars at least?" said he. "I don't say sons, that might be too much to expect." "I am sure, dear queen, I am very sorry," said the queen. "So you ought to be," retorted the king. "You're not going to make a fortune of that, surely." But he was not an ill-tempered king, and in any motherless moment would have let the queen have her own way with all his heart. This, however, was in a fair estate. The queen smiled. "You must have patience with a lady, I know, dear king," said she. She was indeed a very nice queen, and heartily sorry that she could not oblige the king immediately. Yeah, there we go, that's chapter 1. Nice and intro to the story, so. And hello, Julma, how are you, and hey, Axe, how are you doing? How are the Weedles doing? How you are doing, Axe? Hope you're well. They're fine, that's nice to see. Good to hear that. Nice, Joel. Well, hope you can find it, if not here, then hopefully elsewhere. Yeah, probably missed. Just got too weedly for him, too many insects. Have a nice lurk, Axe. Hope you can get some sleep. Here I suppose I'll jump into chapter 2. Well, you have, Axe. You have. Chapter 2, Won't I Just? The king tried to have patience, but he succeeded very badly. It was more than he deserved, therefore, when at last the queen gave him a daughter, as lovely a little princess as ever cried. The day drew near when the infant must be christened. The king wrote all the invitations with his own hand. Of course somebody was forgotten. Now it does not generally matter if somebody is forgotten, only you must mind who. Unfortunately the king forgot without intending to forget, and so the chance fell upon the Princess Macamnoid, which was awkward. For the princess was the king's own sister, and they ought not to have forgotten her, but she had made herself so disagreeable to the old king their father, that he had forgotten her in making his will, and so it was no wonder that her brother forgot her in writing his invitations. But poor relations don't do anything to keep you in mind of them. Why don't they? The king could not see into the garret she lived in. Grey. She was a sour, spiteful creature. The wrinkles of contempt crossed the wrinkles of peevishness, and made her face as full of wrinkles as a pan of butter. If ever a king could be justified in forgetting anybody, this king was justified in forgetting his sister, even at a christening. She looked very odd too. Her forehead was as large as all the rest of her face, and projected over it like a precipice. When she was angry, her little eyes flashed blue. When she heard anybody, they shone yellow and green. What I looked like when she loved anybody, I do not know, for I never heard of her loving anybody but herself, and I do not think she could have managed that if she had not somehow got used to herself. But what made it highly imprudent in the king to forget her was that she was awfully clever. In fact, she was a witch, and when she bewitched anybody, he very soon had enough of it, for she beat all the wicked fairies in wickedness, and all the clever ones in cleverness. She despised all the modes we read of in history, and which offended fairies and witches have taken their revenges, and therefore, after waiting and waiting in vain for an invitation, she made up her mind at last to go without one, and make the whole family miserable, like a princess as she was. So she put on her best gown, went to the palace, was kindly received by the happy monarch, who forgot that he had forgotten her, and took her place in a procession to the royal chapel. When they were all gathered about the font, she contrived to get next to it, and throw something in the water, after which she maintained a very respectful demeanour, though the water was applied to the child's face. But at that moment she turned round in her place 3 times, and muttered the following words, loud enough for those beside her to hear. Light of spirit by my charms, light and body every part, never weary human arms, only crush thy parents' heart. They all thought she had lost her wits, and was repeating some foolish nursery rhyme, but a shudder went through the whole of her notwithstanding. The baby, on the contrary, began to laugh and crow, while the nurse gave a start and a smothered cry, for she thought she was struck with paralysis. She could not feel the baby in her arms, but she clasped it tight and said nothing. Her mischief was done. Right, let me take a quick water break. And move on to chapter 3. She can't be ours. Her atrocious end had deprived the child of foreign gravity. If you ask me how this was effected, I answer, in the easiest way in the world. She had only to destroy gravitation. For the princess was a philosopher, and knew all the ins and outs of the laws of gravitation, as well as the ins and outs of her broodlace, and being a witch as well, she could abrogate those laws in a moment, or at least so clock their wheels and rust their bearings. But they would not work at all, but we have more to do with what followed than with how it was done. The first awkwardness that resulted from this unhappy privation was that the moment the nurse began to float the baby up and down, she flew from her arms towards the ceiling. Happily, the resistance of the air brought her ascending career to a close within a foot-height. There she remained horizontal as when she left her nurse's arms, kicking and laughing amazingly. The nurse in terror flew to the bell and begged the footman who answered it to bring up the house steps directly. Trembling in every limb, she climbed upon the steps and had to stand upon the very top and reach up before she could catch the floating till at a baby's long clothes. When the strange fact came to be known, there was a terrible commotion in the palace. The occasion of its discovery by the king was naturally a repetition of the nurse's experience. Astonished that he felt no weight when the child was laid in his arms, he began to waver up and not down, for she slowly ascended to the ceiling as before, and there remained floating in perfect comfort and satisfaction, as was testified by her peals of tiny laughter. The king stood staring up in speechless amazement, and trembled sore as his beard shook like grass in the wind, at last turning to the queen, who was just as horror-struck as himself, yet had gasping, staring, and stammering. "She can't be ours, queen." The queen was much cleverer than the king, and had begun already to suspect that. This effective came by cough. "I am sure she is ours," answered she, "but we ought to have taken better care of her at the christening. People who were never invited ought not to have been present." "Oh," said the king, tapping his forehead with his finger, "I found her out. Don't you see her, queen? Princess Macamnoid has bewitched her." "That's just what I say," answered the queen. "I beg your pardon, my love, I did not hear you. John, bring the steps I get on my throne with." For he was a little king with a great throne, like many other kings. The throne steps were broad and set upon the dining table, and John got upon the top of them, but he could not reach the little princess, who lay like a baby laughter cloud in the air, exploding continuously. "Take the tongues, John," said his majesty, and getting up on the table he handed them to him. For John could reach the baby now, and the little princess was handed down by the tongues. And alright, let me just roll on through this story so far, and continue straight on with chapter 4. Where is she? One fine summer day, a month after these her first adventures, during which time she had been very carefully watched, the princess was lying on the bed in the queen's own chamber, fast asleep. One of the windows was open, for it was noon and the day was so sultry that the little girl was wrapped in nothing less ethereal than slumber itself. The queen came into the room, and not observing that the baby was on the bed, opened another window. A frolicsome fairy wind, which had been watching for a chance of mischief, rushed in at the one window, and taking its way over the bed where the child was laying, caught her up, and rolling and floating her along like a piece of flue or a dandelion seed, carried her with it through the opposite window and away. The queen went downstairs, quite ignorant of the loss she had herself occasioned. When the nurse returned, she supposed that her majesty had carried her off, and dreading escorting the lady making inquiry about her, but hearing nothing she grew uneasy, and went at length to the queen's boudoir, where she found her majesty. "Please, your majesty, shall I take the baby?" said she. "Where is she?" asked the queen. "Please forgive me, I know it was wrong." "What do you mean?" said the queen, looking grave. "Oh, don't frighten me, your majesty," exclaimed the nurse, clasping her hands. The queen saw what something was amiss, and fell down in a faint, The nurse rushed about the palace, screaming, "My baby, my baby." Every one ran to the queen's room, but the queen could give no orders. They soon found out, however, that the princess was missing. And in a moment the palace was like a beehive in a garden, and in 1 minute more the queen was brought to herself by a great shout and a clapping of hands. They had found the princess fast asleep under a rose bush, to which the elvish little wind puff had carried her, finishing its mischief by shaking a shower of red rose leaves over the little white sleeper. Startled by the noise the servants made, she woke and, furious with glee, scattered the rose leaves in all directions, like a shower of spray in the sunset. She was watched more carefully after this, no doubt, yet it would be endless to relate all the other incidents resulting from this peculiarity of the young princess. But there never was a baby in a house, not to say a palace, that kept the household in such constant good humour, at least below stairs. If it was not easy for her nurses to hold her, at least she made neither her arms nor her heart ache. And she was so nice to play her ball with, there was positively no danger of letting her fall. They might throw her down or knock her down or push her down, but couldn't let her down. It is true, they might let her fly under the fire, or a coal hole through the window, but none of these accidents had happened as yet. If you have heard peals of laughter sounding from some unknown region, you might be sure enough for a cause. Going down into the kitchen or the room, you would find Jane and Thomas and Robert and Susan, all and some playing her ball with a little princess. She was the ball herself, and did not enjoy it no less for it. Away she went, flying from one to another, screeching with laughter. And the servants loved the ball itself better even than a game, but they had to take some care how they threw her, for if she received an upward direction, she would never come down again without being fetched. "Hello there, Momo here. How are ya? How was your stream? And thank you so much for the lovely, lovely read. How do you do? And hello, Dame Ramage and the Positive Vibe Fairy. How are you all? And hello, Arumsey. Good day, and thank you for the follow, Arumsey. Hope your stream was well, Momo. How are you doing? And hello, Cookie. How's your day going? Let me see real quick. Alright. And for anyone just joining on in, I'm reading The Light Princess by George McGraw. It's a bit of a children's story, I'm pretty sure, but that's just my level of reading. It works plenty well. Let's see, I don't think there's that much of a recap really needed. The book kinda gives context to everything it talks about, I think, at least so far. And thank you, Positive Vibe Fairy. Glad you enjoy. Oh, Cookie, the late shift. Well, hope you get some sleep soon. And I'm doing well, how are you? This next chapter is a bit longer, so let me actually take a deep breath before it. Yeah, I was a stream, but all was well. saw earlier that a lovely staff for badging young Reeraja earlier today, right? Worked for a while during work. I'm not getting names mixed up. Could also be getting names mixed up, but I hope not. But alright, let me jump into chapter 5. What is to be done? But above stairs it was different. One day, for instance, after breakfast, the king went into his counting house and counted out his money. The operation gave him no pleasure. To think, said he to himself, that every one of these gold sovereigns weighs a quarter of an ounce, and my real life, flesh and blood princess, weighs nothing at all. And he hated his gold sovereigns as they lay with a broad smile of self-satisfaction all over their yellow faces. The queen was in the parlour, eating bread and honey, but at the second mouthful she burst out crying and could not swallow it. The king heard her sobbing, glad of anybody, but especially of his queen. To quarrel with, he clashed his gold sovereigns into his money box, clapped his crown on his hat, and rushed into the parlour. "What is all this about?" exclaimed he. "What are you crying for, queen?" "I can't eat," said the queen, looking ruefully at the honey pot. "No wonder," retorted the king. "You have just eaten your breakfast, 2 turkey eggs and 3 anchovies." "Oh, that's not it," sobbed her majesty. "It's my child, my child." "Well, what's the matter with your child? She's neither up the chimney nor down the draw well. Just hear her laughing." Yet the king could not help a sigh, which he tried to turn into a cough, saying, "It is a good thing to be light-hearted, I'm sure, whether she be yours or not." "It is a bad thing to be light-hearted," answered the queen, looking with prophetic soul far into the future. "'Tis a good thing to be light-handed," said the king. "But 'tis a bad thing to be light-fingered," answered the queen. "'Tis a good thing to be light-footed," said the king. "'Tis a bad thing," began the queen, but the king interrupted her. "In fact," said he, with a tone of one who concludes an argument in which he has had only imaginary opponents, and in which therefore he has come off triumphant, "in fact, it is a good thing altogether to be light-bodied." "But it is a bad thing altogether to be light-minded," retorted the queen, who was beginning to lose her temper. This last answer quite discomforted his majesty, who turned on his heel and betook himself to his counting house again. But he was not halfway toward it when the voice queen overtook him. "And if it's a bad thing to be light-hearted," screamed she, determined to have more last words, now that her spirit was aroused. And hello, Spikons, by the way. Hope you're doing well. Good day to you. The queen's hair was black as night, and the king's had been, and his daughter's was golden as morning. But it was not his reflection on his hair that arrested him. It was the double use of the word light, for the king hated all witticisms and pudding especially, and besides he could not tell whether the queen meant light-haired or light-aired, for why might she not aspirate her fowls when she was exasperated herself? He turned upon his other heel and rejoined her. She looked angry still because she knew that she was guilty, or what was much the same, knew that he thought so. "My dear Queen," said he, "duplicity of any sort is exceedingly objectionable between married people of any rank, not to say kings and queens, and a more objectionable form duplicity can assume is that of punning." "There," said the Queen, "I never made a jest, but I broke it in the making. I'm the most fortunate woman in the world." She looked so rueful that the King took her in his arms, and they sat down to consult. "Can you bear this?" said the King. "No, I can't," said the Queen. "Well, what's to be done?" said the King. "I'm sure I don't know," answered the Queen. "But might you not try an apology?" "To my old sister, I suppose you mean," said the King. "Yes," said the Queen. "Well, I don't mind," said the King. So he went the next morning to the house of the Princess, and making a very humble apology, begged her to undo her spell, but the Princess declared with a grave face that she knew nothing at all about it. Her eyes, however, shone pink, which was a sign that she was happy. She advised the King and the Queen to have patience and to mend their ways. The King returned disconsolate. The Queen tried to comfort him. "We will wait till she's older. She may then be able to suggest something herself. She will know at least how she feels and explain things to us." "But what if she should marry?" exclaimed the King, in sudden consternation at the idea. "Well, what of that?" rejoined the Queen. "Just think, if she were to have children in the course of 100 years, the air might be as full of floating children as of gossamers in autumn." "There is no business of ours," replied the Queen. Oh wait, that was the King before that, I think. Replied the Queen that she did. "Besides, by that time they will have learned to take care of themselves." A sigh was the King's only answer. He would have consulted the court physicians, but he was afraid they would try experiments upon her. So, right, maybe a small bit of a recap actually, for anyone who hasn't caught on yet. The King and the Queen here happen to have gotten a daughter. That seems to not weigh a thing. And well, probably cursed by her other aunt, I think that's her aunt, with a sister and a king. But alright, on to chapter 6. She laughs too much. Meantime, notwithstanding awkward occurrences and grief that she brought upon her parents, the little princess laughed and grew, not fat, but plump and tall. She reached the age of 17 without having fallen into any worse scrape than a chimney, by rescuing her from which a little bird nesting urchin got fame, and a very, very suited up face. Nor, thoughtless as she was, had she committed a thing worse than laughter at everybody and everything that came in her way. When she was told, for the sake of experiment, that General Clanrenford was cut to pieces with all his troops, she laughed. When she heard that the enemy was on his way to besiege her papa's capital, she laughed hugely. But when she was told that the city would certainly be abandoned to the mercy of the enemy's soldiery, why then she laughed immediately, or moderately. She never could be brought to see the serious side of anything. When her mother cried, she said, "What queer faces Mama makes," and she squeezes water out of her cheeks. "Funny Mama." And when her papa stormed at her, she laughed and danced around and around him, clapping her hands and crying, "Do it again, Papa, do it again. 'Tis such fun, dear funny Papa." And if he tried to catch her, she glided from him in an instant, not in the least afraid of him, but thinking it part of the game not to be caught. With one push of her foot, she would be floating in the air above his head, or she would go dancing backwards and forwards and sideways like a great butterfly. It happened several times, when her father and mother were holding a consultation about her in private, that they were interrupted by faintly repressed outbursts of laughter over their heads, and looking up with indignation, saw her floating at full length in the air above him, when she regarded them with the most comical appreciation of the position. One day an awkward accident happened. The princess had come out upon the lawn with one of her attendants, who held her by the hand. Spying her father at the other side of the lawn, she snatched her hand from the mate's and sped across to him. Now when she wanted her alone, her custom was to catch up a stone in his hand, so that she might come down again after a bound. Whatever she wore as part of her attire had no effect in this way. Even gold, when it thus became, as it were, a part of herself, lost all its weight for the time, but whatever she only held in her hands retained its downward tendency. On this occasion she could see nothing to catch up but a huge toad that was walking across the lawn as if he had 100 years to do it in. Not knowing what disgust meant, for this was one of her peculiarities, she snatched up the toad and bounded away. She had almost reached the father, and he was holding out his arms to receive her, and take from her lips the kiss which hovered on them like a butterfly on a rosebud, when a puff of wind blew her aside into the arms of a young page, who had just been receiving a message from His Majesty. Now it was no great peculiarity in the princess that, when she was set to going, it would always cost her time and trouble to check herself. On this occasion there was no time. She must kiss, and she kissed the page. She had not minded much, for she had no shyness in her composition, and she knew besides she could not help it, so she only laughed like a musical box. The poor page fared the worst, for the princess, trying to correct the unfortunate tendency of her kiss, put out her hands to keep her off the page, so that along with a kiss he received from the other cheek a slap with a huge black toad, which he poked right into his eye. He tried to laugh too, but the attempter saw it in such an odd contortion of countenance as showed that there was no danger of his pluming himself in a kiss. As for the king, his dignity was greatly hurt, and he did not speak to the page for a whole month. I may here remark that it was very amusing to see her run, if her mode of progression could properly be called running, For fur she could make a pound, then having a light she could run a few steps and make another bound. Sometimes she would fancy she had reached the ground before she actually had, and her feet would go backwards and forwards, running upon nothing at all, like those of a chicken on its back. Then the world would laugh, like the very spirit of fun. Only in her laugh there was something missing. What it was I find myself unable to describe. I think it was a certain tone, depending upon the possibility of sorrow. Morbidezza, perhaps. She never smiled. And hello there, Chorolian. Hope you're well. Good day to you. And alright, let me... That is actually probably way too quick. I've been drinking a lot of water, so let me take a quick break in between. If it's needed, it's needed, unfortunately. So I'll be right back. Let me just turn the fire up a bit and mute whilst I do it. I'll be right back with chapter 7. Hello, Tate, how you know? Hope you're well. Let me turn the fire on back down. And hello, Patrick, and thank you for the follow. Good day to you. Oh, right. A lot of April Fool's promotions going around by companies. I've actually not seen any of myself. Except for just one coming by now. But That's not all that much, just one. Also, let me quickly just check the audio. How are we doing? Oh, that sounds alright. Still. Good. Just making sure. Just double checking before I jump back in the book. Into chapter 7. Try metaphysics. After a long avoidance and a painful subject, the king and queen resolved to hold a council of the three upon it, and so they sent for the princess. In she came, sliding and flitting and gliding from one piece of furniture to another, and put herself at last in an armchair, in a sitting posture, where she could be said to sit, seeing she received no support from the seat of the chair. I do not pretend to determine. Yeah, fair enough, miss, fair enough. Honestly, I was thinking of playing a horror game whilst doing ASMR, of course, just having the game muted, I guess. But I ultimately decided against that one. My dear child, said the king, you must be aware by this time that you are not exactly like other people. Oh, you dear funny papa, I've got a nose and 2 eyes and all the rest. So have you, so have mamma. Now be serious, my dear, for once, said the queen. No, thank you, mamma, I'd rather not. Would you not like to be able to walk like other people, said the king. No, indeed, I should think not. You only crawl, you are such slow coaches. How do you feel, my child? He resumed after a pause of discomfiture. Quite well, thank you. I mean, what do you feel like? Like nothing at all that I know of. You must feel like something. I feel like a princess with such a funny papa and such a dear pet of a queen mamma. Now really, began the queen, but the princess interrupted her. Oh yes, she added. I remember, I have a curious feeling sometimes, as if I were the only person that had any sense in the whole world. And hello, welcome back, Mo, and no worries, no worries. Take care, good luck with the busy evening, and thank you so much again for the raid. If anyone doesn't already, follow Momo here. Go give her a follow, she makes some ASMR as well. And thank you, take care, good luck with a busy evening, and get that belly fat. That's an important feed to make sure of as well. You see, as I'm dreading making dinner for myself in an hour or two. Well, I am a bit of a hypocrite from time to time. The light princess had been trying to behave herself with dignity, but now she burst into a violent fit of laughter, threw herself backwards over the chair, and went rolling about the floor in an ecstasy of enjoyment. The king picked her up easier than one does a down quilt, and replaced her in her former relation to the chair. The exact preposition expressing this relation I do not happen to know. Is there nothing you wish for? Resumed the king, who had learned by this time it was useless to be angry with her. Oh, you dear papa, yes, answered she. What is it, my darling? I've been longing for it, oh, such a time, ever since last night. Tell me what it is. Will you promise to let me have it? The king was on the point of saying yes, but a wiser queen checked him with a single motion of her head. Tell me what it is first, said he. No, no, promise first. I dare not. What is it? Mind, I hold you to your promise. It is to be tied to the end of a string, a very long string indeed, and be flown like a kite with such fun. I would rain rose water and hills full of plums, and snow with cream and A fit of laughing checked her, and she would have been off again over the floor, had not the king started up and called her just in time. Seeing nothing but talk could be got out of her, he rang the bell, and sent her away with two of her ladies in waiting. Autumn. Alright. Police car driving on by with a siren on. At least I think that's police. Now, Queen, he said, turning to her Majesty, what is to be done? There is but one thing left, answered she. There is consort a college of metaphysicians. Bravo, cried the king, we will. And hello, Benjamin, how do you do, and thank you for the follow. Now at the head of this college were two very wise Chinese philosophers by name, Humdrum and Copycat. For them the king sent, and straightway they came. In a long speech he communicated to them what I knew very well already, as who did not, namely the peculiar condition of his daughter in relation to the globe on which he dwelt, and requested them to consult together as to what might be the cause and probable cure of her infirmity. The king laid stress upon the word, but failed to discover his own pun. The queen laughed, but Humdrum and Copycat heard with humility and retired in silence. And hello, Nosenheimer, how do you do? How are you today? And Benjamin, thank you for keeping me hydrated. Much, much appreciated. And let me actually see. I think Twitch sends me an email if they approve emotes. So let me keep my phone on the desk, see if I see an email come by. Possibly. And hello, Del, how do you do? And Frothy. I mean, sure. And Frothy, and Frothy, 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 Frothy. Well, you gotta give it a bit of a roll. What is it again, by the way? It's, you say frothy coffee, right? When there's... It's like... kind of bubbly on it, or like... kind of like light foam or something. A frothy beer, right, that works well. I've been drinking a lot of cappuccinos lately. I think they're frothy. Wait, or is frothy itself a beer. I don't know. Oh wait, it's probably just a beer brand. Precis combine or a latte. I mean, lattes are nice too. I don't know. I've just been drinking a lot of cappuccinos lately. That's mainly because my dad bought a lever machine for it. But alright, let me jump back into the two professors. The consultation thereat consisted chiefly in propounding and supporting for the 1000th time each's favourite theories. For a condition and a princess afforded delightful scope for the discussion of every question arising from the division of thought in fact, of all the metaphysics of the Chinese Empire. But it is only justice to say that I did not altogether neglect the discussion of the practical question, what was to be done. Humdrum was a materialist and Copycat was a spiritualist. The former was slow and sententious, the latter was quick and flighty. The latter had generally the first word, the former the last. And nice, still nice. I reassert my former assertion, began Copycat with a plunge. There is not a fault in the princess' body or soul, only they are wrong put together. Listen to me now, humdrum, and I will tell you in brief what I think. Don't speak, don't answer me. I won't hear you till I have done. At that decisive moment, when souls seek their point habituations, two eager souls met, struck or bounded, lost their way and arrived each at the wrong place. The soul of the princess was one of those, and she went far astray. She does not belong by rights to this world at all, but to some other planet, probably Mercury. Her proclivity toward true sphere destroys all the natural influence which his orb would otherwise possess over her corporeal frame. She cares for nothing here. There is no relation between her and this world. She must therefore be thought by the sternest compulsion to take an interest in the earth as the earth. She must study every department of its history, its animal history, its vegetable history, its mineral history, its social history, its moral history, its political history, its scientific history, its literary history, its musical history, its artistical history above all, its metaphysical history. She must begin with the Chinese dynasty and end with Japan. But first of all she must study geology, and especially the history of the extinct races, of animals, their natures, their habits, their loves, their age, their vengeance. She must... the word humdrum. It is certainly my turn now. My rooted and insubvertible conviction is that the cause of the anomalies apparent in the princess' condition are strictly and solely physical. But it is only tantamount to acknowledging that they exist. Hear my opinion, from some cause or other, of no importance to our inquiry, the motion of her heart has been reversed. That remarkable combination of the suction and the force pump works the wrong way, I mean, in the case of the unfortunate princess. It draws in what it should force out, and forces out what it should draw in. The officers of the Argos and the Fendergos are subverted, the blood is sent forth by the Fane, and returns by the arteries. Consequently, it is running the wrong way through our corporeal organism. Lungs and all, it is then all mysterious. Seeing that such is the case, that on the other particular of gravitation as well, she should differ from normal humanity. My proposal for the cure is this: phlebormize until she is reduced to the last point of safety. Let it be effected if necessary in a warm bath. When she is reduced to a state of perfect asphyxia, apply a ligature to the left ankle, drawing it as tight as the bone will bear. Apply at the same moment another of equal tension around the right wrist by means of plates constructed for the purpose. Place the other foot and hand under the receivers of 2 air pumps. Exhaust the receivers, exhibit a pint of French brandy, and await the result, which would presently arrive in the form of grim death, said Copycat. If it should, she would yet die in doing her duty, retorted Humdrum. But their Majesties had too much tenderness for her volatile offspring to subject her to either of the schemes of the equally unscrupulous philosophers. Indeed, the most complete knowledge of the laws and nature would have been unserviceable in her case, for it was impossible to classify her. She was a fifth imponderable body, sharing all the other properties of the pondable. And alright, let me straight on jump on through to chapter 8. Try a drop of water. Perhaps the best thing for the princess would have been to fall in love, but our princess who had no gravity could fall into anything as a difficulty, perhaps the difficulty. As for her own feelings on the subject, she did not even know that there was such a beehive of honey instincts to be fallen into. But now I come to mention another curious fact about her. The palace was built on the shore of the loveliest lake in the world, and the princess loved this lake more than father or mother. The rude had his preference, no doubt, although the princess did not recognize it as such, was that the moment she got in debt, she recovered the natural right of which she had been so wickedly deprived, namely gravity. Whether this was owing to the fact that water had been employed as a means of conveying the injury, I do not know, but it is certain that she could swim and dive like a duck, the old nurse that she was. The manner in which this alleviation of her misfortune was discovered was as follows. One summer evening, during the carnival of the country, she had been taken upon the lake by the king and queen in the royal barge. They were accompanied by many other courtiers in a fleet of little boats. In the middle of the lake she wanted to get into the Lord Chancellor's barge, for his daughter, who was a great favourite with her, was in it with her father. Now though the old king rarely condescended to make light of his misfortune, yet, happening on this occasion to be in a particularly good humour, as the barges approached each other, he caught up the princess to throw her into the Chancellor's barge. He lost his balance, however, and dropping into the bottom of the barge, lost his hold of his daughter. Not, however, before imparting to her the downward tendency of her own person, though in a somewhat different direction, for as the king fell into the boat, she fell into the water. With a burst of delighted laughter, she disappeared into the lake. A cry of horror ascended from the boat. They had never seen the princess go down before. Half the men were under water in a moment, but they had all, one after another, come up to the surface again for breath, when tinkle, tinkle, babble and gush came the princess' laugh over the water from far away. There she was, swimming like a swan, nor would she come out for king or queen, chancellor or daughter. She was perfectly obstinate. But at the same time she seemed more sedate than usual. Perhaps that was because a great pleasure spoils laughing. Her whole offence after this, the passion of her life, was to get into the water, and she was always the better behaved and the more beautiful, the more she had of it. Summer and winter, it was quite the same, only she could not stay so long in the water when they had to break the ice to let her in. Any day from morning to evening in summer she might be descried, a streak of white in the blue water, lying still at a shadow of a cloud, or shooting along like a roving, disappearing and coming up again far off, just where one did not expect her. She would have been in a lake of a night too, if she could have had her way, for the balcony of her window overhung a deep pool in it, and through a shallow reedy passage she could have swum out into the wide wet water, and no one would have been any the wiser. Indeed, when she happened to wake in the moonlight, she could hardly resist the temptation. But there was a sad difficulty of getting into it. She had as great a dread of the air as some children have of the water, for the slightest gust of wind would blow her away, and a gust might arise in the stillest moment. And if she gave herself a push towards the water, and just failed of reaching it, the situation would be dreadfully awkward, irrespective of the wind, for at best there she would have to remain, suspended in her nightgown, till she was seen and angled for by someone from the window. Oh, if I had my gravity, thought she, contemplating the water, I would flash over her balcony like a long white seabird, headlong in a darling wetness, hey-ho. This was the only consideration that made her wish to be like other people. Another reason for her being fond of the water was that in it alone she enjoyed any freedom, for she could not walk out without a cordage, consisting in part of a rope, or consisting in part of a troop of light horse, for fear of the liberties which the wind might take with her. And the king grew more apprehensive with increasing years, so at last he would not allow her to walk abroad at all without some 20 silken cords fastened through as many parts of her dress, and held by 20 noblemen. Of course horseback was out of the question, but she bade goodbye to all the ceremony when she got into the water. And so remarkable were its effects upon her, especially in restoring her for a time to the ordinary human gravity, that Humdrum and Copycat agreed in recommending the king to bury her alive for 3 years, in the hope that, as the water did her so much good, the earth would do her yet more. But the king had some foul prejudices against the experiment, and would not give his consent. Foiled in this, they yet agreed in another recommendation, which, seeing that one imported his opinions from China and the other from Tibet, was very remarkable indeed. They argued that if water or external origin and application could be so efficacious, water from a deeper source might work a perfect cure. In short, that if the poor afflicted princess could by any means be made to cry, she might recover her lost gravity, was this to be brought about? Therein lay all the difficulty. To meet which the philosophers were not wise enough to make the princess cry was as impossible as to make her way. They sent for a professional beggar, commanded him to prepare his most touching oracle of woe, helped him out at a courtyard box to whatever he wanted for dressing up, and promised great rewards in the event of success. But it was all in vain. She listened to the mendicant artist's story, and gazed at his marvellous makeup till she could contain herself no longer, and went into the most undignified contortions for relief, shrieking positively, screeching with laughter. When she had little recovered herself, she ordered her attendants to drive him away and not give him a single copper, whereupon his look of mortified discomfiture wrought her punishment and his revenge, for it sent her into violent hysterics, from which she was with difficulty recovered. But so anxious was the king that the suggestion should have a fair trial, that he put himself in a rage one day, and rushing up to her room gave her an awful whipping, yet not a tear would flow. She looked grave, and her laughing sounded uncommonly like screeching. That was all. The good old tyrant, though he put on his best gold spectacles to look, could not discover the smallest cloud in the serene blue of her eyes. And all right. I think I'll actually keep it pretty short today. Because my throat is kind of acting up a little bit. And I'm still camping with my neck pain after sleeping wrongly for a night ago. Let me quickly see where we are in the book. How many chapters are there? There were 15. We just did chapter 8. Let me maybe just do one more chapter. The chapters seem to be getting longer. So I think one more chapter would leave a decent amount for another time. Well, probably not too much. I think the book is probably very well suited for nice one stream, pretty short still, 2 or 3 hours. But I don't think I can reach that today. But alright, let me do, I think, one last chapter for today. Chapter 9, put me in again. It must have been about this time that the son of a king who lived 1,000 miles from Lagobel started to look for a daughter of a queen. He travelled far and wide, but as sure as he found the princess, he found some fault in her. Of course he could not marry a mere woman, however beautiful, and there was no princess to be found worthy of him. Whether the prince was so near perfection that he had a right to demand perfection itself, I cannot pretend to say. All I know is that he was fine, handsome, brave, generous, well-bred, and well-behaved youth as all princes are. In his wanderings he had come across some reports about a princess, but as everybody said she was bewitched, he never dreamed that she could bewitch him. For what indeed could a prince do with a princess that had lost her gravity? Who could tell what she might not lose next? She might lose her visibility or her tangibility, or in short, the power of making impressions upon the radical sensorium, so that he should never be able to tell whether she was dead or alive. Of course he made no further inquiries about her. One day he lost sight of his retinue in a great forest. These forests are very useful in delivering princes from their courtiers, like a sieve that keeps back the bran, that the princes got away to follow their fortunes. In this way they have the advantage over the princes who are forced to marry before they have had a bit of fun. I wish our princes got lost in a forest sometimes. One lovely evening, after wandering about for many a days, he found he was approaching the outskirts of this forest, for the trees had got so thin that he could see the sunset through them, and he soon came upon a kind of heath. Next he came upon signs of human neighbourhood, but by this time it was getting late, and there was nobody in the fields to direct him. After travelling for another hour, his horse, quite worn out with long labour and lack of food, fell and was unable to rise again. So he continued his journey on foot. At length he entered another wood, not a wild forest but a civilized wood, through which a footpath led him to the side of a lake. Along this path the prince pursued his way through the gathering darkness. Suddenly he paused and listened. Strange sounds came across the water. It was in fact the princess laughing. Now there was something odd in her laugh, as I have already hinted, for the hatching of a real hearty laugh required the incubation of gravity. And perhaps this was how the prince mistook the laughter for screaming. Looking over the lake, he saw something white in the water, and in an instant he had torn off his tunic, kicked off his sandals and plunged in. He soon reached the white object and found that it was a woman. There was not light enough to see that she was a princess, but quiet enough to show that she was a lady, for it does not want much light to see that. Now I cannot tell how it came about, whether she pretended to be drowning or whether he frightened her, or called her so as to embarrass her, but certainly he brought her to the shore in a fashion ignominious to a swimmer, and more nearly drowned than she had ever expected to be, for the water had got into her throat as often as she had tried to speak. At the place to which he bore her, the bank was only a foot or two above the water, so he gave her a strong lift out of the water to lay her on the bank. But her gravitation ceasing the moment she left the water, away she went up into the air, scoring and screaming. "You naughty, naughty man," she cried. No one ever succeeded in putting her into a passion before. When the prince saw her ascend, he thought he must have been bewitched, and have mistaken a great swan for a lady. But the princess caught hold of the topmost comb upon a lofty fir. This came off, but she caught it in her, and in fact stopped herself by gathering cones, dropping them as the stalks gave way. The prince meantime stood in the water staring and forgetting to get out. But the princess disappearing, he scrambled ashore and went in the direction of the tree. There he found her climbing down one of the branches towards the stem, but in the darkness of the wood the prince continued in some bewilderment as to what the phenomenon could be, until reaching the ground and seeing him standing there, she got hold of him and said, "I'll tell Papa." "Oh no, you won't," returned the prince. "Yes, I will," she persisted. "What business had you to pull me down out of the water and throw me to the bottom of the air? I never did you any harm." "Pardon me, I did not mean to hurt you. I don't believe you have any brains, and there's worse luck than your wretched gravity. I pity you." The prince now saw that he had come upon the bewitched princess, and had already offended her. But before he could think what to say next, she burst out angrily, giving a stamp with her foot that would have sent her aloft again, but for the hold she had of his arm. "Put me up directly." "Put you up where, you beauty?" asked the prince. He had fallen in love with her almost already, for her anger made her more charming than anyone else had ever beheld her, and as far as he could see, which certainly was not far, she had not a single fault about her, except of course that she had not any gravity. No paws, however, would judge of a princess by weight. The loveliness of her foot he would hardly estimate by the depth of the impression it could make in mud. Put you up where, you beauty?" asked the prince. "In the water, you stupid," answered the princess. "Come then." The condition of her dress, increasing her usual difficulty in walking, compelled her to cling to him, and he could hardly persuade himself that he was not in a delightful dream, notwithstanding the torrent of musical views with which she overwhelmed him. The prince being therefore in no hurry, they came upon the lake at quite another part, where the bank was 25 feet high at least, and when he had reached the edge, he turned towards the princess and said, "How am I to put you in?" "That is your business," she answered, quite snappishly. "You took me out, put me in again." "Very well," said the prince, and catching her up in his arms, he sprang with her from the rock. The princess had just time to give one delighted shriek of laughter before the water closed over him. When he came to the surface, he found that for a moment or two she could not even laugh, for she had gone down with such a rush that it was with difficulty she recovered her breath. The instant they reached the surface, "How do you like falling in?" said the prince. After some effort the princess painted out, "Is that what you call falling in?" "Yes," answered the prince. "I shouldn't think it a very tolerable specimen." "It seemed to me like going up," rejoined she. "My feeling was certainly one of elevation too," the prince concerned. The princess did not appear to understand him, for she retorted his question. "How do you like falling in?" said the princess. "Beyond everything," answered he. "For I have fallen with the only perfect creature I ever saw." "No more than that, I am tired of it," said the princess. Perhaps she shared her father's aversion to punning. "Don't you like falling in then?" said the prince. "It is the most delightful fun I have ever had in my life," answered she. "I never fell before. I wish you could learn to think I am the only person in my father's kingdom that can fall." The poor princess looked almost sad. Wait, sorry, that one was supposed to be here in the middle. The poor princess looked almost sad. I shall be most happy to fall in with you any time you like, said the prince devoutly. Thank you. I don't know, perhaps it would not be proper, but I don't care. At all offence, as we have fallen in, let's have a swim together. With all my heart, responded the prince. And the way they went, swimming and diving and floating, until at last they heard cries along the shore and saw lights glancing in all directions. It was now quite late, and there was no moon. I must go home, said the princess. I am very sorry, for this is delightful. So am I, returned the prince, but I am glad I have no home to go, at least. I don't exactly know where it is. I wish I hadn't one either, rejoined the princess. That's so stupid. I have a great mind, she continued, to play them all a trick. Why couldn't they leave me alone? They won't trust me in the lake for a single night. You see where that green light is burning. That is the window of my room. Now if you would just swim there with me very quietly, and with your robe under the balcony, give me such a push up. You call it as you did a little while ago. I should be able to catch hold of the balcony and get in of the window, and then they may look for me still till the morning. With more obedience than pleasure, said the prince gallantly, and away they swam very gently. Will you be in the lake tomorrow night? The prince ventured to ask. To be sure, I will. I don't think so, perhaps, was the princess's somewhat strange answer. But the princess was intelligent enough, the prince was intelligent enough not to press her any further, and merely whispered as she gave her the parting lift, "Don't tell." So perfectly like other people had been in the water, that even yet the prince could scarcely believe his eyes when he saw her ascend slowly, grasp the balcony and disappear through the window. He turned, almost expecting to see her still by his side, but he was alone in the water. So he swam away quietly, and watched the lights moving and roving about the shore for hours after the princess was safe in her chamber. As soon as they disappeared, he landed in search of his tunic and sword, and after some trouble found them again. Then he made the best of his way around the lake to the other side. There the road was wilder and the shore steeper rising, more immediately towards the mountains which surround the lake on all sides, and I kept sending a message of silvery streams from morning to night. And all night long he soon found a spot whence he could see the green light in the princess's room, and where, even in the broad daylight, he could be in no danger of being discovered from the opposite shore. It was a sort of cave in the rock, which he provided himself a bed of withered leaves, and lay down too tired for longer to keep him awake. All might long be dreamed that he was swimming with the princess. And alright, that was indeed a long chapter, and I'll indeed cut it off there. I don't know, I'm getting really sleepy, probably because I'm slightly healing from that hurting neck, I think, from sleeping wrong. So, just a short stream today, it seems. 'cause I'm one hell of a sleepy boy right now. I'll try and finish this book tomorrow. Think it'll be about the same amount of time, an hour and a half as well. And I think maybe just finishing this book tomorrow might make it just 1.5 hours tomorrow as well. Don't make too big a fuss about trying to go long right now or not. I mean, I always want to do long streams and likes, but sometimes I just can't entirely manage it, however unfortunate that is. So let me see who all is live. Oh, Saint's favorite streamer is live. Put you all on over there. See a couple others, not sure. Juju is live, but it's a bit smaller. I don't know what kind of... Oh, fair enough. That's this Knausenheimer is probably there already anyways. We just rage on over to Fox. So, sorry for being a bit sleepy and just doing a short stream today, and sorry in advance for tomorrow as well, I suppose. But just gotta leave her on that for today. Then finish this book, hopefully tomorrow. Another probably short stream. But thank you all for having been here, and Momo, if you happen to hear, thank you so much for the raid. And maybe sometime this weekend too. Maybe sometime. I'll see. I should add that tongue drum redemption. And Killtoy, thank you for the follow. Hope you're well. And again, thank you all for having been here, and I hope you all enjoy your lovely Fox ASMR. Take care, and see you all some other time. And I'll add that tongue drum redeem. No worries, Killtoy, no worries.